Thank you for the opportunity to discuss with you the aspects of child exploitation and importantly how we as members of law enforcement, academia, research, policy industry and particularly the non-government agencies we have in the room here today can work hand in glove with law enforcement to combat this insidious crime type that we see becoming more and more prevalent in the international space. At the outset, though, it is important to reiterate the impacts and more widely understand the threat environment that we deal with in terms of child exploitation. You've heard from my colleagues here aspects of particular areas of child exploitation they look at a day-to-day basis. Importantly too, it's a key understanding that we need to have of the strategic environment that faces us, particularly in how that affects what we do as law enforcement, non-government agencies, and particularly industry and how we can work together to combat this. As Mike alluded to, child exploitation remains one of the most egregious forms of cybercrime that we can have. What I hope to do this morning is provide an insight into the threat environment and specifically provide an overview of the challenges faced by sectors such as law enforcement, the policymakers, government and civil society. Disturbingly, and as you've already heard, Australia is not immune to the exposure to child exploitation. Recent child exploitation matters involve sickening episodes of violence, rape, systemic torture of children, and Australians have been prosecuted for this, including those that established lucrative pay-per-view video streaming and distribution networks via the dark web. They sell videos of the depravity for up to $10,000 a video, and at a time, and they have a ready-made market for that. The particular offender constantly upload and distributed videos of children being sexually abused and tortured via the dark web. There were allegations that some of those children were actually murdered during the process of that exploitation. And that was facilitated for the ongoing distribution by other sophisticated networks of online pedophiles based both here in Australia and abroad. The transnational scope of the offending is abhorrent. There's no other way to describe it. It featured sickening videos inviting viewers to watch as he openly described it, the mental ruin of a young child and the sexual and physical torture and abuse of that child. That was the way that it was seen by those perpetrators. The details are sickening but also pose significant challenges for society and how to deal with the proliferation of child sex offending, particularly online, particularly in the global world that we now live in. The connectivity, the access, the ability of the offender to obfuscate their intent all pose significant challenges to law enforcement and society in terms of how we address these activities and how we'll be in the best position to protect ourselves and prevent and harden the environment, particularly harden that environment for those offenders. So in terms of understanding the threat, law enforcement internationally is facing an exponential increase in the incidences of online child exploitation. The rapid expansion of access to the internet, mobile device capability, rapid technology uptake worldwide, and the speed of data transfer capabilities has clearly driven the ability of individuals and groups to engage in child sexual offences across physical borders. Those who seek to sexually exploit children continue to use those anonymous networks to advertise, manufacture, distribute child exploitation material, as well as to communicate undetected by law enforcement. Anonymous networks attract users willing to post extreme content, adding to the millions of images and videos already available and distributed online. The presumed anonymity conferred by these networks fuels the demand for new child exploitation material. Production and consequently the sexual abuse of those children. The use of encrypted apps and military-grade destruction tools provide further levels of anonymity. That's the level that these people operate at. The same level that federal governments, international governments use for their military-grade encryption. Although the nature and scale of organised crime involvement in child sex offending in Australia remains unclear, Australians remain involved as online members, customers, administrators, organisers, and are also part of sophisticated online criminal networks that involve large amounts of child exploitation material and the live online sexual exploitation of children. And we've heard that from my colleagues earlier this morning. The networks are known to consist of thousands of active members from all over the world, conspiring to assist one another in the commission of those offences. The use of the dark web to disguise the exchange and trade of child exploitation material over the internet continues to pose a key challenge to law enforcement agencies. Cloud computing to store materials, as David touched on previously, the super fast internet transfer rates, mobile phone applications that are being developed daily, all provide increasing challenges for law enforcement, academia and society at large in terms of how they will tackle that, particularly even as far down as the parent trying to provide that advice to their child on how to actively use those apps. The lack of any form of stringent moderation and regulation on live streaming apps has also increased the popularity and the use between offenders. Through an increase in the commercialisation of child exploitation, that's a terrible way to put it, commercialisation of child exploitation material. This is a profit-making business for these offenders. And materials being made specifically to order through production requests and payments being made through cryptocurrencies and online money transfer systems continue to pose a significant threat for law enforcement to try and understand that environment. The live streaming video websites, the camera applications and video chat services also allow for that real-time remote production of child exploitation material. And those services also make it possible for free and paid live streaming child exploitation. That also creates attractive opportunities for organised crime involvement in that stream, and also the more widespread proliferation of the victim and the material. Self-initiated video streaming and live streaming is a growing threat with the children's own use of self-broadcast streaming apps, and the exploitation of these by offenders is a growing concern. Sadly, what that actually means is the exploited children are in some instances the ones who are exploiting. It's as simple as that. However, organised child sex offending in Australia is different from that seen in other countries, particularly in Southeast Asia and Eastern Europe. It's not regarded as a major source of children or material for the offending. However, that doesn't take away from the fact that Australians still have a similar nature and scale of involvement in organised crime groups utilising and sourcing child exploitation material from offshore. It still remains a major criminal activity offshore and internationally, and a source of profit for organised crime around child exploitation. Whilst I touched on a specific case earlier, organised child sex offending in Australia is more likely to involve Australian perpetrators sourcing children and material from like-minded individuals either based in Australia or from overseas-based markets, run and facilitated by organised crime groups, networks and associates. It's widely acknowledged that cases of sexual abuse are chronically underreported. Determining the scale of organised child sex offending is further complicated by Australian perpetrators abusing those children overseas, as is the case with child sexual exploitation in travel and tourism. Excuse me. The harms caused by child sexual abuse and serious organised child sex offending are major. I don't think there's any doubt around that. Individual victims can experience severe, lifelong psychological, physical and behavioural harms. Family environments are also severely damaged, and that causes additional harms to victims and impact on society. The internet, as we all know, provides a platform for child sex offenders to network and produce child exploitation material. And identifying victims of child exploitation material is very difficult, complex and time-consuming. Delays in identifying victims of child exploitation material likely result in law enforcement and child protection authorities being unable to prevent ongoing and future abuse, and being unable to ensure that those victims are given appropriate support. It's a very, very difficult environment to work in. So this remains a significant concern for law enforcement and society as a whole. Australians travelling offshore to perpetrate sexual exploitation of children is a significant concern from the Australian government, as Minister Dutton's touched on, and Australian law enforcement clearly. Australia is an exemplar, however, in the initiative to be preventative and provide those protective measures for vulnerable children exposed to child sex tourism from those sex offenders, preventing their travel. It's a really significant aspect that we've put into place in Australia, and we're seen as a world leader in that regard. As access to high-speed internet and accessible digital technology spreads, there's an increased risk of Australian offenders, live streaming Australian offenders, and or Australian offenders using online media to arrange in-country offending. Similarly, international live streaming remains a very real reality for them. Self-generated imagery by children and sexploitation and in turn sextortion of a child remains an increasing threat. The very children we're often seeking to protect are the ones making the material and being distributed. It's a vicious cycle of exploitation by the exploited. To that end, developing a strategic understanding of the threat and risk environment and using that to guide responses from enforcement, policy and societal influences is paramount to tackling that issue. And that's why I thank all of you today for coming here to listen to how we may do that. There's responsibility of us as law enforcement, of the government, and more importantly, society actually grab this with both hands and try and put those measures in place that's going to give us the most significant opportunity to impact on this. This is how we do it as a whole. Today we've got the opportunity for significant, wide-reaching and most collaborative responses to tackle child exploitation that we may have for some time. We're the ones who can look to take and undertake those actions of control, prevention and disrupt this insidious activity. Look forward to continuing to work with the AIC, the Australian Centre to Counter Child Exploitation, and yourselves present today to develop those really key responses to this issue. Thanks everybody for your time.